Vlad Ethereum Classic.
Welcome back, gentlemen, to Capital Gentlemen. It's your host, Vlad Ethereum, Vlad Solana, whatever. It doesn't really matter too much. I mean, I'm kind of both to some degree, but I just didn't want to rebrand and like change everything again for like the umpteenth fucking time. So is this Vlad Ethereum, Vlad Solana? Like it doesn't even matter. It's just you can say Vlad, like because ultimately I'm not uh at the end of the day, I'm not here to meat ride any specific chain. Like, I'm here to make money. So, like, my association to a chain is probably will change again at some point. Except with Bitcoin, like, that's always going to be the number one. Um, but yeah, let's get into the video. We're going to talk about render today. But let me just cover some other things that are going on. So, trying to figure out some sort of structure for just upload schedule. I was consistent for as long as I could have more last year towards the end because of me being able to be more free, but I had to, actually manage, what we talk about here. And, part of me has been messing around, but a part of me was actually trying to figure out how to actually allocate correctly. And because, I'm not trying to stop improving going into the halving. But our bonk call that did well. I still own some bonk, but I sold that off at the recent top, like how I knew it was gonna happen at some point. But I had gotten in so low at 91 million. I mean, our call is on here for 91 million on bonk. Um, and a fair amount of people saw that video, but I don't think enough people saw it. But that doesn't matter to me. Um, that's not what really this is about. Um, but no, I literally like zoned out because I saw something. No, okay, I'm gonna just reiterate. The okay, I remember. Yeah, the numbers and shit like that doesn't matter too much. Like ultimately, at the end of the day, it's longer term shit and just a track record that I'm worried about, not necessarily the views that I get out of it. Because a lot of the people that decide to do this, in crypto, they oftentimes go out of their way to essentially like just I won't even say make shit up, but they do it for the wrong reasons. Like instead of actually being a good trader and just being dead ass, they kind of um hide shit, hide certain facts, act like they came up with something that his basically that's basically free, and they try to do some sort of false monetization. I don't know how else to say it, but everybody's about clicks and views and go through my referrals and shit, and that's not what we're really about here. That's why I'm not necessarily worried on the views that I got on my, I think, one of my best calls. One of my best, probably just because that was actually a it was like a 20x call. So it's like 2,000% potential if you got in at the exact bottom and sold the exact top, but that's never how that goes. More realistically, I was able to secure around 720%. Um, and there's it's not really about the size you go in with every trade either. I'm not even telling you if I went in with size or not. It's more so just do you even know how to identify correctly, and so that you don't even waste your size, right? But moving on, let's talk about render tokens. So render, um, just to reiterate what's happening with render fundamentally, GPU graphics, cloud network sort of. I wouldn't even say cloud network. I would just say network. And parent company Otoy, CEO Jules Arbach, um, maker of the Octane X software in the Apple App Store, with full support for the render token. Um, Not only that, Coinbase now is coming out with the updated render network token. So we're going to be seeing more liquidity go into the right token rather than the Ethereum version. So finally, the easy migration is finally here that people have been waiting for. I mean, even though it wasn't that hard to swap, for some people, for some reason, people were just like scared or something to move to Solana, even though on Solana it was cheaper and you really could have got a 10%. You could have easily got 10% more render. It's just due to less liquidity, the pricing was weird. But ultimately, you shouldn't be selling it less than for what it is on Ethereum, because I do think there is technically still a fair amount of render on Ethereum to accurately represent the value of the token. So I don't think that just because there's less liquidity on Solana that we need to sit here and be like, oh, it's even though there's liquidity issues, it's worth less. It's not opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. But that's resolved now. It's gonna get listed again, not even listed, re-updated on Coinbase because it's already listed. But on top of that, we have the what render network is actually going to be being used for. I would say is going to be with the Apple headset devices coming out this Friday, and that's because it's going to take a lot of GPU power to do that spatial computing, and there's no way they're not going to use this token um, or network at some point. They're going to have to figure out how they're going to scale their GPU products or GPU reliant products, and clearly, in my opinion, that's going to be with Render Network. This isn't some new idea made by some Web3 founder. This is by somebody that is in a Web2 mindset that has had this idea for the past 10 years, and it is finally coming to life with the new AI narrative of ChatGPT. I think, in my opinion, as for large caps that are related to AI, I think this one's going to perform the best, if not one of the best, in my opinion. Not financial advice, but that's why I have an allocation, just because not only do I know the render network is on Solana, I like Solana. I'm bullish on Solana. Um, but I do believe that because Solana is attracting a lot of liquidity, this isn't going to be some hidden AI project that gets swept under the rug. It's gonna, it's already kind of in the mainstream crypto sphere, but as time continues on, I think we're going to see more and more utilization of the render network. And the render token. Then, not only bringing that up, we have the burn mint equilibrium. The burn mint equilibrium, you pay and render, and the equivalent gets burned. And that is estimated going to burn 1% of the supply per month, from what I've heard. But moving on. Oh, we went to 4. Oh, we're gonna definitely go hit 5. Yeah, we're closing higher and higher on these daily time frames, so that's good for the render network, but we are in a slight consolidation range. Let's get into the TA. So let's start with the weekly though, but we have consolidation there. That's highlighted on a smaller time frame here, but more realistically, that's not what we're focused on the weekly time frame. On the weekly time frame, looking for a weekly close. Well, I'm gonna take this off. Looking for a weekly close above the $4.36 area, just because I think that's a key level for the entire candle to, have shown a reasonable amount of strength and actually have the full top of the body close outside of the triangle, because I don't want to see a half candle close where half is in, half is out. That's not an appropriate bullish confirmation breakout. Not confirmation of like retest or anything, but just to break out there. Um, Looking at the RSI and the MACD, bullish continuation on the weekly, so that's good. Didn't flip bearish, that's good. Um, if we go back further, usually on longer time frames, the RSI more so follows the cycle rather than short term price action. So because of all the outperformance with Bitcoin, it seemed as if it was oversold, corrected, went back to neutral, but not in over. No, no, no. It will. Let me rephrase. It will follow it to oversold when everything is over. No, overbought when everything is overvalued, and then it will follow the price action to oversold. Obviously, when things are getting oversold. That was the right way to say that. Um, but what I was saying is here. Even if we did get a pullback, I'm not expecting anything below or near neutral, just because of the narrative and how things are heating up so quickly into the halving. Like we could reverse short term, but I think we more so coast on the upper side of things. But the trend is your friend until it ends. Moving on to the 3 day time frame, just to keep it simple. Same thing. We have our touch points. We have our target here at $7.28, taking the length of the triangle. Three touch points on the weekly time frame, though. That's the key thing. So when you say there's not three touch points here, no, check the weekly. Um, so 328, and looking at a possible, if you are an owner at this price or below, um, looking at a 60% return or more. This I believe is going to play out in time, but I think I think it's going to be more so by the end of March that it's probably going to be have had, especially with all the hype going into the halving. And I think especially by the time Bitcoin hits its all time high again, I think realistically this will be well above like $20. In my opinion, because this is all going to be new liquidity and more money flowing into the ecosystem on top of the narrative, on top of the utilization we already see. And it's not even the top of the bull market yet. So this project definitely has legs, in my opinion. Non financial advice. This isn't technically a trend. There's not three touch points on this RSI, but I would say there was some downside momentum and breaking. If you drew up like I guess like a little fake support line with less confirmations, or if you just count it, I don't know. It's more so just for representation of okay, this was touch point broke that. Can this start to reverse? And if this starts to reverse on top of this, then that's really our confirmation for momentum and volume um into render. I guess we put the volume on here. We can see how much actual volume is coming in, and I would say, let me see, let me zoom in. I would say volume isn't necessarily spiking. I wouldn't say it's necessarily dropping, but when you see these spikes, um, let me see. Hold on, because we had increasing volume as we were heading out in the uptrend, but eventually the volume diverged from the price. Um, the reason that could have happened simply because supply on the market, with it not being as available, there doesn't need to be as much volume to move the price. Um, so but on top of that, low volume means increased volatility. Maybe I was wrong about that other point. Actually, no, I was right because if there was a limited amount of it, it would go up. It wouldn't go down. So in some way, I was correct. Maybe not exactly the way I said that the first time. But moving on, so keep this simple because I'm really trying to simplify. That's something else I was working on. Bull market support band on the daily time frame. Um, is currently acting as a level of support for this candle breakout. And if we check the 3 day time frame for the bull market support band and we go down, then we will see, um, in this region, it was really just testing, rather than it being perceived as a fake out on the daily time frame. Weekly isn't tested at all, but we're going to put this back to weekly. Um, I think ultimately, though, just off topic while moving this around, I think ultimately at some point, 10,000 render is going to be $1 million. Right now, 10,000 render is 45 grand, and you guys might be like, "Well, Vlad, I don't have 45 grand." Well, I mean, I'm trying to talk to veterans, but I'm also trying to give you an idea of ratios just in general, because you don't have to own 10K hypothetically to make money off of this. Hypothetically, right? You could own 1K. You could own 1K, right? Hypothetically, not financial advice, and still get the same multiple. But moving on past that, some other things with render. Let's go to the 100-day EMA. Tested 2 times the support, so I find, no, 3 times the support. So I really find that to be bullish. I would expect if we do drop again, or if this was a fake out, then that would be bearish. It would set up a higher low, um, and a rejection would just signal more continuation. But this isn't a bearish setup here, in my opinion. This is more like, all right, you've got your confirmation on the weekly. You're seeing weekly bullishness. You zoom in on the 3-day. You take these off. You don't have to look at that necessarily to signal where the momentum. You know the momentum is going up, but you want to see indications on here that show signs of reversal, because this is showing the opposite of what we're seeing as the trend on the longer time frame. Now, in my opinion, this is backing up this, and this is backing up that, as it should, because in my opinion, I like to use multiple points on multiple time frames for perspective on the market. Um, Moving on. That's basically it, actually. Yeah, that's basically it for render in this video. Just real quick covering this chart: one divided by render, divided by Bitcoin. So right now, again, I tried to cover this, but I didn't do it well. I didn't even make a fucking video. So basically, what this is, this is one divided. This is one divided by render, divided by Bitcoin. So it's one divided by the Bitcoin render pair. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because as this goes down, because we're bullish on render, we want to see it continue to go down. And you might be like, well, Vlad, how are we shorting? How are we shorting in general to be bullish? Well, bro, we're shorting Bitcoin, therefore we're more profitable in Bitcoin as this goes down. And what I'm kind of looking for is, I mean, we've seen this as an area of clear resistance, right? Rejected multiple times. It's not really ultra specific. Have this range of support, has currently failed to hold multiple times. You see these wicks trying to, hold, not close there, but ultimately falling through and closing outside of it, and ultimately failing to hold the support. And I think this is really more so signal of rejection to the downside. And if this continues, if render continues to be bullish, I would expect to test these levels. And then if this goes down, then there's not going to be much resistance to the downside. And the other reason why I'm saying, 1K render is going to be 10K render is going to be $1 million is, in my opinion, I think one Bitcoin is going to be 1,000 render, in my opinion. At the top, because let's say Bitcoin is 100K and render is 100, or around there, or let's say render's 150 and Bitcoin is 120, then definitely, it's possible for render to be, in the thousands and above equal to one Bitcoin, in my opinion. Okay, sorry about that blackout or whatever, but yeah, that's basically the end of the video. I think in future videos, um and then I think I'll try to make another one today. I think I'll try to stick to. I might stop worrying about YouTube Shorts. I mean, I wasn't worried about it, but since I'm trying to focus on YouTube, I might incorporate it. I'm trying to figure out a balance where I can still do this without as much pressure to make um, the videos the way I have in the past, because I would try to be over structured. But now I'm really trying to be simple and have less worry and simplify things for myself and for the viewer to produce easier and more consistent content related to the markets. Next video, um, I think, yeah, I think I might talk about. I'm either going to talk about with the liquidity or H&T. I'm not sure which one. Probably both in the future. Probably both in the future. But thank you for your time today. It's your host, Vlad Ethereum, Vlad Solana. Same shit, different day. And yeah, this is Capital Gentleman.